Hey ladies, how's it going? Dan Frampton here, and today we're doing our best Titanic impression as we go headfirst into another iceberg. A couple weeks ago I was talking about the punk rock iceberg, and then I got to thinking, I found this just online and I can't really find an iceberg of bands that I actually listen to. So I cobbled together this little graphic of a modern day hardcore iceberg. Boom, there it is. Isn't that beautiful? And already I can see a whole bunch of glaring errors. I didn't really do a whole lot of research when doing this. I was just writing down a bunch of bands that I listened to, ones that I thought that more people were listening to, and then I just put it all together here on an iceberg and put it on Instagram. I didn't think anything of it, but it ended up being one of my most liked pictures that I ever put up on the platform, sitting at around 86 likes. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, and it's not a lot, but on my page, it's a lot. And in the comments, it was like, you really should do a video on this. And I thought, you know what? I will do a video, but it was a little bit too soon after that punk rock iceberg, so I waited a couple weeks, and here we are, modern day hardcore iceberg. And before we go through this, there were a couple omissions, there were a couple bands that I missed, and in writing this, I was like, hey, anyone think of any bands that I missed? And of course, people thought of some bands. So I'm gonna go over those bands as kind of like honorary mentions or whatever. So we got Dying Wish, Year of the Knife. Then Jordo says Inclination, but then I was like, yo, Inclination's actually there. Then someone says Pain of Truth. And I was like, yeah, true, well, they're also there. Kublai Khan, someone says, and that one I don't have there. And then Desmond comes in and says Vane FM. I'm like, yo, that one's also here. Did you guys even look at this goddamn iceberg? Year of the Knife, yeah, true, I didn't put them there. Kublai Khan, I didn't put them there. You're right. Show Me the Body, good call. Snarl, good call. World of Pleasure, excellent shout. Kind Eyes, Gates of Hell, and Gate Creeper, all bands that I missed. Life's Question, Be All End All, also bands I missed. Major Pain got a couple shouts here. Out of Pocket, amazing shout there. And finally, Division of Mind, and that's going to make up the honorary mentions. And then bands that I thought of after the fact that I missed were Speed, Dare, and Abrasion, just to name a few. There are hundreds and hundreds of underground hardcore bands that are amazing that are not on this list. So at the very top of the list here, you see it's Turnstile. It's a band that's getting so popular. They are the cool band right now. And it's kind of cool to see because at first they were just like the band that was reigniting the passion of the underground hardcore scene, and then they just kind of blew up. They started in 2010 as a side project and had no idea that they were going to be like playing arenas all over the world one day with JPEG Mafia and be considered like the gentrification of rock and roll. They have over 1 million listeners, which secures them at the very top of this iceberg. Next band down, from Kentucky, formed in 2013, is another massive band with over 600,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. We're talking about Knocked Loose. I'm going to be mentioning monthly listeners a lot for these bands, but you got to believe that that's not the only metric to determine how popular and how relevant a band is, especially in this scene where the diehards, where the hardcores of the hardcore are still consuming their media on vinyl and tapes. But these numbers are going to give me kind of an idea if I've accurately placed these bands on the iceberg, and spoiler alert, it's all out of whack. I gotta debunk this thing. But so far, the first two bands at the top of the iceberg are correct choices. And I was a little cheeky with this next choice. I put Madball as the next peak here on the iceberg, knowing full well that they're not really a modern day hardcore band. They're an 80s band from New York. They're so legendary, they're so iconic, but they're still playing shows. So I put them at the top of the iceberg, seeing if anyone was gonna call me out for it. But I accidentally called myself out for it, taking away all that engagement. We got Freddie Madball up here playing in front of a sea of people that are just loving to see his band. And if you don't know, this iconic band was a side project at one time too. And still after all these years, they're getting 93,000 monthly listeners on the old Spotify. So if we're using that as a gauge, they're gonna have to be a little bit lower here. But you can't really put Madball below the surface of a hardcore iceberg. They're Madball. The next band down is Fiddlehead. Now, they're not necessarily a side project, but they are indeed a supergroup. So members from other bands came together to form this band. You might have heard of Have Heart, basement, big contest, and intent. Well, they're all in this band here, and they're still amazing. The fiddlehead rule. And as you can see from this footage, it's still a highly energetic show where people are throwing their bodies around in the name of their previous bands and, of course, fiddlehead themselves. I would say they're a little bit more melodic than Have Heart, but all that passion is still there. Next band over is Incendiary. Now, I don't know anybody that has a bad thing to say about Incendiary. They're just a reliable band with really great songs that you know are going to put on a great show. They're heavy, they're political. They were formed in 2007 in New York, and they're cranking about 65,000 monthly listeners. And that's why I feel these numbers are a little skewed, because Incendiary are definitely a headlining act that take bands on the road with them. The next band over from that, and the last one above the surface of this water, is Terror. Terror is another one of those bands that the people just throw their bodies around for. They're one of the modern day hardcore bands that are just very much a staple in the scene. Kind of a beatdown band, kind of a tough guy vibe going on here, but everybody loves Terror. This Scott Vogel guy, the singer, man, what a guy. He's always asking people, get closer, get closer. Even when they're as close as possible, Scott Vogel over here is like, get closer, guys. I know you can get closer. You gotta love it. And upon first glance, you might think that they're a New York beatdown band, but that's not the case. They're not from New York or Boston or Chicago, those famous kind of like we're gonna punch you in the face places. No, they're straight up a Los Angeles band. Okay, so now it's time to dive below the surface, and I kind of put this first band here kind of as a gag pick, but it makes a lot of sense. Because first, as we get down there, we're gonna get Trapped Under Ice. Formed in 2007 in Baltimore, fronted by Justice Tripp, this band is iconic, and the members of this band went on to start Turnstile. So after that all happened, of course, they didn't really play that many more shows, and they kind of just started doing their own little side projects. But it was recently announced that the boys are coming back for a couple shows, and we're all very excited about it. With how inactive they've been over the last couple of years, this is still an appropriate place for them on this list. Okay, this next band, Comeback Kid, they're from Canada. They're from Winnipeg, you idiot. And they should be a lot higher on this list because they're pulling in over like 200 monthly listeners. They were formed in 2001. And in my opinion, I think they're the best hardcore band to come out of Canada. At the beginning of this year, they put out a record called Heavy Steps, and the riffs and vocals and production on it are top tier, the best that they've done. So still this deep into their career, and they're putting out their best work, you gotta love to see it. Comeback Kid are an amazing band. Poughkeepsie, New York might not be the first place that you think of when it's time to think of New York hardcore, but that's exactly where Mindforce are from. Poughkeepsie. There are so many letters in that name that I didn't even bother spelling it on my notes. Poughkeepsie, but it is a very fun word to say, just like it is fun to listen to and watch Mindforce perform their tunes live in Poughkeepsie and other places. Now just below that, we're going to see Drug Church here, and upon further consideration, I think I would put them a little bit higher on this list. Drug Church kind of have that cool uncle vibe without the cool part. They're kind of out there being like, sure, you can smoke and stuff, but I'm going to judge you very hard for doing it. But they're a tight band who write great songs, and the people really do like them. I'm just not a huge fan of them. But I'm certainly in the minority because there's over like 300,000 people on the monthly cranking these guys on Spotify alone. 2015, in a little town known as Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, there was this band called Jesus Piece. And this video that we're watching here is one of Hate5six's most popular uploads, sitting at over 800,000 views. There are only a couple videos to top that on his channel, and I know they're all Turnstile. So even though their monthly listeners might not be as impressive as other bands, the fact that this many people came out to watch this set, the notoriety that that brings alone means that I probably should have put them higher on this list. Maybe I should have used a smaller font to fit more people above the surface there. Now this next band, Never Ending Game, I have no idea what I was thinking putting them this high on an iceberg. They are down here. They are almost in the depths, but they are a great band. And I think I just was listening to them a lot. I was watching their sets a lot, and it just came up that they were so relevant in my train of thought that they ended up here beside Jesus Piece for some reason. But I'm telling you right now, Never Ending Game are a great band, they're a tough band, they're a hard-working blue-collar band, you know? But they do not belong this high on the list at all. But you should still check them out. Just look at these slams, people are going crazy. Alright, I know it, you don't need to go down there in the comments. These next couple bands should be way higher on the list. We got Drain and we got Sunami. They're Bay Area bands. I've talked about them enough on this channel. I'm not gonna go into them. There's history there. Fuck them both. But this is a very memorable time right here. And they will forever have a very special place in my goddamn heart because of this set, because of this moment, because of this upload right here. And Drain from Santa Cruz, California. Surprisingly, they're only sitting at 61,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. And I think I'm gonna make a prediction right now that they're gonna be the next big time breakout band. Now I know I've made that prediction here on the channel before, but their Epitaph release is coming out early next year, and I think it might be the thing that starts that snowball. So let's give it the album cycle and then revisit this and see if I am right about them being the next biggest, hypest band ever. I kind of hope I'm wrong though, I don't want them to be. But just look at this scene, look at this chaos that they're causing. This is very special, and I know special when I see it, and goddamn Drain is bringing the special. Okay, back to Baltimore we go for End It. Now in my humble opinion, End It are putting out some of the best music videos in hardcore today. They're clever, they're funny, there's so much charisma. Like look at this, all this stuff that you're seeing on screen right now is jumping out at you. There's so much electricity here, and even more so when the sound is going. So you should really go check out this Hate Keeper music video. And I'm keeping an eye on End It as well, because they have potential to be massive. Next band over is Bay Area hardcore band formed in 2020, Spy, followed by one of my favorite bands in the world right now, going today, and that is Soul Glow. The record that they put out earlier this year, Diaspora Problems, I don't think is going to be topped for years to come. Song after song, lyric after lyric, riff after riff, vocal cut after vocal cut. This thing is just one of the most impressive pieces of hardcore music that I have ever heard. I know that sounds like a lot of hype, but god damn, every time I listen to it, I hear a new thing that re-blows my mind. Next band over, formed in SoCal in 2014, is Fury. Very good band, I just never really super got into them. And the band right beside them is going to be this post-hardcore kind of nu metal band, Vane FM, that used to be just called Vane at one time. And when they were called Vane, I got confused between them and Fury for some reason, even though they're completely different bands. And I guess that's why they're here side by side, because in my brain they're still side by side. Incorrectly, I might add. Here's a taste of what Spy looks like. Nice leather jacket on the bassist over here, long hair on the vocalist, sporting a stellar mustache, we love to see it. The hoodie up, sunglasses, mustache combo on the drummer. A lot of steez. This band Spy, very stylish. I forgot to show you Fury. This is Fury. Oh, and Vane FM playing outside. You know, Vane FM is just one of those bands that should never be listened to or seen in broad daylight. They're a darkness band. Okay, back over the border to Canada we go, to another legendary band from the Great White North, and that's a little group known as No Warning. They were formed in 1998, which kind of makes them a classic band. Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania was home to one of the scene's most darling bands, and that was Title Fight. And in my opinion, one step closer is the spiritual successor to Title Fight, coming from the same place. They're just a group of straight edge people riding skateboards, playing hardcore shows, that kind of vibe, and I absolutely love them. I think their riffs go hard, their drummer's amazing, their vocalist is amazing. From Fairfield, Connecticut, we got one of my favorite bands going today. Right up there with Soul Glow. More on the emo side of life, we got Anxious. And this is them playing at Program Skate and Sound, and if you haven't seen this video, you should really go check this out. This thing is a piece of art. This thing is beautiful. Their songwriting, musicianship, aesthetic, everything about them, top class. Next up, we're going to be talking about Gridiron over here, and they claim to be from PA to the D. I'm not sure what exactly that means. I think it means Pennsylvania to Detroit, PA to the D? Yeah, that must be exactly what that means. I'm not exactly sure. But this is Gridiron, and they're mid. You know who's not mid, though? The band right beside them on this list, Brody King's group, God's Hate. Look at this beast. Okay, back over to California for Scowl. Here's them playing at Sonic, the drive-thru. And then straight from the Tribe of the Moon, we're talking about Zulu, one of the most important bands going today in my opinion, and they are super underrated. I think that Zulu should be at the top of this goddamn iceberg. They are the coolest. They are the freshest. They are the least afraid to be themselves. They are the least afraid to say their message. They are so brave. They are so cool. They are just like the epitome of everything that I want a hardcore band to be. I love Zulu. God damn, this band is so cool. And if you've been watching the channel for a long time, you know that I do mosh pit commentary, and the front man in Zulu happens to be the top mosh pit performer in my league, and that's Wildberry Blast. But his name is actually Anaya, and when we're talking about Zulu, we gotta take away all that goofy comedy stuff that I do on my channel, because what they do is real. What they do is pure and shouldn't be like butchered by shitty nicknames. That is Anaya, and he has a lot of fucking shit to say, and he is a super, super talented fucking guy. And just dripping in charisma. Just throw on a Hello Kitty puffer and he's good to go. From Richmond, we got Candy. They're glitchy, they're heavy, they got real long hair and floral shirts. It's not a floral shirt. Oh my god, they're a good band. They're really fucking tight and they have a loyal audience. I actually went to a Candy show recently and left before they performed. Not because they're not any good and not because I wasn't hyped to be there, but I had my fill. I went to see Restraining Order. I saw Restraining Order. It was a good time. I felt like it was time to go and I went home. Next band over is a straight edge band called Magnitude that I would love to be higher on this list, but having them here is actually too high. They should be a lot lower than this based on popularity or whatever, but they're a great band and they have a great message. Next band is Gel. From that same show at Sonic comes this footage courtesy of Hate56. I like Gel a whole lot. Man, this band they're a good band. They are definitely a good band, and they have potential to break through the ceiling, but I don't feel confident enough to make that bold claim about them yet. But I would just love to see them shatter all the glass ceilings imaginable. Gel rule. And the band that I placed beside them here on the iceberg actually should be at the bottom of the iceberg based on how new they are, based on their popularity, based on their actual place in the scene and everything. But I love them. God damn. Spaced is a great band. Now the band on this iceberg that I've actually seen, they're a Restraining Order. I love them. They're very tight live. They're very fun. They're very fast. And I'm not ashamed to admit that they're one of my favorite bands going today. I love this group. They're kind of fast. They're kind of gruff. They're kind of melodic. But most importantly, the songs are there. That LP that they put out a couple years ago from front to back is song after song, banger after banger, just a good time. Next band over from that is another, I know, one of my favorite bands going today, and that is Buggin'. If you want to talk about riffs, okay, they will destroy you with these fast and fun and catchy, heavy little riffs. Highly recommend you go check out this Audio Tree Live full session featuring Buggin'. It's an amazing watch. Oh yeah, they're from Chicago, and this is about the right place for them on the list. Okay, the band just below that is gonna be Inclination. They just put out a record called Unaltered Perspective, and I gotta say, I enjoyed it. You might recognize this guy right here. That's Isaac Hale of Knocked Loose fame, and he was really passionate about putting together the most perfect straight edge record, and that's what he feels he delivered on that newest record that they put out. And I gotta say, it was pretty good. I don't think it was perfect because their other straight edge project, which is going to be a little bit later on this list, I think is a little bit better, just from a heaviness perspective. Okay, the next band down on this iceberg is Pain of Truth, and they recently just came and headlined a festival in Toronto called Hold Your Ground, and people were loving them. They're a relatively new band. I believe they're from Long Island, New York, and they're already cranking the listens. All right, now we're talking about another side project. Isaac Hale from Knocked Loose, as well as other members from Knocked Loose and Dare, come together to form X, Weapon X. And the little demo that they dropped this year is probably my favorite EP demo that came out. You know, it's just unbelievably good, unbelievably heavy. It's just an aggressive, good straight edge time. Okay, we're gonna keep it straight edge here. Talk about a little band that I really hope get a lot bigger than little one day, and that's Contention. If you wanna talk about militant straight edge, that's Contention. They have convictions and they're gonna stand behind them vocally, verbally, and physically. Earlier this year when they were involved in a car accident, and it's great to see them just get right back to it, making towns. All right, now we're gonna do a couple local bands to hear. First is Friction. If this album cover doesn't sell you on Friction, I don't know what will. They're definitely one of the coolest hardcore bands in Toronto right now, but a band that I personally like a little bit better from the greater Toronto area is Cold Shoulder. Very good band. All right, the next band down, we're going to be talking about Jivebomb from Baltimore, kind of a new band, but already pulling in over 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. It's great to see. And they might actually one day get to upper mid-card levels, because people are dancing. And if you notice, if you look closely down here at the bottom of the iceberg, I have these bands flipped, because the band at the very bottom of it is a band that I've talked about a bunch, and I think they deserve way more flowers than they're getting. And that might be because they're not really an active band anymore, but that's Coolside, and they are one of the coolest hardcore bands that I have ever had the privilege to witness on YouTube. I did a whole video just on this set alone, and I got some good news earlier this year, hearing that they're coming back for a show or two, and I hope that means new music. But that's it. That's the modern day hardcore Iceberg explained and debunked. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Only like half of y'all are subscribed, so go ahead and do that. That would be great. And until my next upload, watch another upload.